Alrighty, today I'm coming to you to talk to you about how to make meds, just simple meds, using syringes from dispensaries. And so I've taken and I've looked at the dispensaries and seen what syringes are available. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but I do want to give a few examples so that you guys have an idea of what you're looking for. Because when you make meds, what you want to initially do is sit down and really think to yourself, this is some self-evaluation. You want to sit down with yourself in just like a neutral environment or somebody who's helping, perhaps your caregiver, and you want to write down all of your symptoms that you're looking to treat. And don't skip anything. Just put them all down. And then once you've made that list, then what you're going to do is, since you've decided to medicate with syringes from dispensaries, so just to make a simple med. And what does that mean? A simple med, what I'm describing, is just doing something like perhaps do you use coconut oil? A lot of people use coconut oil in a lot of their cooking, or just to even take a tablespoonful of per day. But if you enjoy coconut oil, you can also replace one-to-one coconut oil with butter. So if you enjoy something like that, you could medicate coconut oil. That would be a simple thing to do. And all you would do is you would do this stovetop, and in a pot you would put in your coconut oil. So say you're going to do 1 cup of coconut oil, and then you're going to get your syringe from your dispensary. And this is where you really want to make sure you're looking at milligrams. Look to see, are you getting a 0.5 gram syringe or 1 gram of syringe, and look to see how many milligrams are in that syringe. So that'll help you determine whether you're going to be medicating 1 cup or 2 cups, say, of coconut oil. And once you decide to medicate that coconut oil, so you have your syringe or syringes with the appropriate amount of milligrams, what you're going to do is put your pan on your stove, and you're going to set it to medium low heat. And you're going to want to stay on the low side of the heat because you don't want to ever boil or simmer. And so we'll say low medium, so the emphasis on the low. And then once you start melting that down, you'll also want to have just a trick to make it easy to get the concentrate out of the syringes. You'll want to have a hot cup of water handy. So if it's a hot cup of tap water, perhaps, and then have your syringes setting in it as you're getting your coconut oil scooped into your pan and starting to warm up. And as your syringes are warming up in the water, while you're doing all of that, once you're ready, you should be able to just twist the end off the syringe and then just push it down into the coconut oil. So it's just going to be a syringe, and it's not going to have a needle on it. It's just going to have a blunt tip on it, and so that you can unscrew that and then dispense it directly into your coconut oil. And the benefits of doing this is that then you cook that coconut oil, your cup or 2 cups of coconut oil, you want to cook it between 4 to 8 hours. And with the syringes, you can allow for less time. So you can go for like 4 hours because you're not having to extract from the plants. And so that's another time saver that we're doing by using the concentrates. And so once you stir and you have that medicating for 4 hours, And you must say, because I want to automatically say you want to stir every 45 minutes, but you don't have to. You just need to stir it in when it starts warming up. And then, hey, Rose, how's it going? And start warming it up. And then once you get that all stirred together, you just let it sit and brew together and let everything marry, and let the concentrate get into the coconut oil. And so once you do that, and you can just let it sit for 4 hours, then you just take it off, and you don't have to strain because, again, you're not dealing with plant material. You'll just pour into whatever container you're keeping it in for the future. And you can keep the coconut oil, if you keep it in the refrigerator, and you can keep it for a few months, up to a year, but you want to double check and just make sure everything smells good and is really good. If you need to make it last for a lot longer, you want to put it in the freezer. But if it's been in the freezer, you want to put it in one of those, the what do you do when you take all the air out of it? But anyway, if you can get all that, because coconut oil can taste kind of funky in the freezer, so just a warning about that. But in the refrigerator, it really stays good for a long time. So the handy thing about doing the coconut oil with concentrates is if you're employed, you have a day job and you don't have a lot of time, this is a time saver. And also, if you're trying not to make your whole house stink, so say you have kids or companies coming over or something like that, this can be really nice because it reduces the aromatics. You're still going to get a smell, but not nearly as much as if you were to medicate with flour. So to go through the whole rundown again, to medicate a coconut oil with a concentrate syringe, you want to pick out or write down your symptoms, and then go to all the dispensaries and look at what syringes they have available. And I'm going to just pull up a couple options here, so pardon me. But just for instance, so once you look up the strains that dispensaries have available, then you want to go to something like Leafly or WikiLeaf and look up what the patient reviews are. See what they've done for other people. And so, for instance, we have a whole bunch of stuff from Mint, and let's see here, Canna, Silver State Relief, the dispensary. I'm going to take a look at Mint has a couple syringes, White Widow and Burkle. And if we look at Leafly, we can see, and I can't share my screen, unfortunately, mid a Facebook video, so I'm just going to try to show you a little thing. But this is what you see on Leafly. And so you want to look that up. And if that fits what you're looking for, then you might be interested in using it to make your meds. And this is, I mentioned there was Burkle. This is another strain, so it has different attributes. And so, I'm not good at doing things backwards in a mirror. Anyway, so you can see, if you want to see more, like I didn't, and there's, this strain is also available in syringes. Super Lemon Haze, and I put this one down because this one is abbreviated, and so in case that's confusing, if it's just an abbreviation, SLH, it may be Super Lemon Haze. And then there's also, I want to discuss Delta 8 syringes. And so we know that Delta 9 gets us high, right? And so people have learned that if you extract the delta-9, you have the psychoactivity. Well, delta-8 is kind of a reduced high. You still get high, but it's not as intense. But they have noticed that it has some medicinal benefits. And so, just in talking about delta-8 specifically, why would you want to use this syringe? Because I'm just finding an article. The High Times did a really excellent article. It was referenced really well, has all of the reference materials listed, so you can double check their work and make sure everything's accurate, which is really awesome. I like using that article. But what is handy about this is that we learn in delta-8 THC that it is an analog of THC with antiemetic, anti-anxiolytic, appetite stimulating, analgesic, and neuroprotective properties, blah, blah, blah. And so if you're looking to try to stimulate your appetite or reduce your anxiety, if you're looking to try to get into neuroprotectants, like if you have condition where that might be an issue, like MS, an autoimmune condition or something like that, you might be interested in seeing if you enjoy taking delta-8 THC. Now, I want to be clear that some people don't notice as great of a response from extracted cannabinoids, because I've heard from a few clients that they're being recommended an extracted cannabinoid for their specific condition, but they don't notice that it helps. And so I would like you to know that if you are recommended an extracted cannabinoid and you try it and it doesn't work for your condition, then you might just need the whole plant material, because you have to understand that they did these tests with a really concentrated amount of these extracted cannabinoids over in Israel, is one of the tests that was done with delta-8 THC, and they were testing it on kids, reducing nausea with cancer, and it worked really, really well. And that's awesome, but be aware that whole plant is typically more effective. So if the extracted cannabinoids don't work for you, point being, don't fear. That doesn't mean cannabis doesn't work for you, because that would mean you're an alien without an endocannabinoid system. What it does mean is that you just need a little more to treat your system. And Miss Shreen, I must say, I miss you so much. We must get together. Thank you for joining the video. But going back with our concentrates, it's really good to just see, because if you don't have a lot of conditions or a lot of symptoms, it's more likely that this will work for you, that specific extracted cannabinoid will work for you, that you won't need whole plant. So for most people, the average person, just medicating coconut oil with a strain-specific syringe creates incredibly effective meds most of the time. I mean, if not, you probably have some more stuff going on. And so you might want to look at what all is going on with your body, just mind, body, everything, to see if you need more. But the average adult, the average person, will really only need this kind of cannabinoid. And when you get strain specific, that gears things in for the system and doesn't, because when you pile a whole bunch of strains on each other, sometimes the terpenes end up fighting. And so there can be a terpene battle. And so instead of everything working together, things can get just cross-haired, and they're like, no, I want to do this. No, I do this. And so they argue, which isn't good. But if you find just a nice strain specific, like most autoimmune conditions prefer an indica, and we'll find that sativa will be way too charging for the system and can kind of feel like, for me, it feels like I plug my finger into an electrical outlet and electrocuted myself. Whereas for somebody who has something like, say, PTSD or something like that going on, they would really like the strain that makes me feel electrocuted. Like somebody would probably really like Durban poison if they had something going on, dealing with anxiety and not just anxiety. There's a chemical composition issue with this, because just basic anxiety indica can help as well. So I'm getting off on different tangents. But the point is, you want to research the strain that you're going to be putting into your coconut oil. But this makes a really simple med. So if you want something done in like 4 hours without having to strain anything, and having to have a lot of aromatics in your household. So if you have a family or going to have company over, like I said, this could be a very helpful thing for you to have to make sure you still get your medication. And be aware that there are CBD dominant syringes and there are THC dominant syringes. So consider what you're looking for. If you are just looking to treat like headaches and general aches and pain, things like that, you might just want to go get a CBD syringe, because it's a cannabis plant. So you've got the whole everything going on in there, but it's not necessarily THC dominant. But that might help balance your system. Now, when you start dealing with nerve pain, nerve issues, that's when you start going to want to incorporate THC. When you're wanting to talk to your central nervous system, and your peripheral nervous system is talked to by the heated up form of THC, which is CBN. So you want to know what you're trying to talk to. So do you have any nerve things going on? No? Okay, well then you might just want to look to either just a CBD dominant med, or try to make, and you have to do this in your mind, calculate the milligrams, try to make a 1-to-1. So grab a CBD dominant syringe, say there's Blue Moon at Silver